Good morning. It's good to be with you again this morning and continuing to build on the 4 pillars of a healthy Christian business leader. The pillars are healthy relationships, biblical financial values, biblical spirituality, and balanced living. This week we're focusing on pillar number 3, which is biblical spirituality. And the series is called What is Worship? Yesterday we talked about worship involves your whole life. And this morning, the topic is worship is more than singing. So oftentimes when people talk about worship, they say things like this. I didn't like the worship at that church, or I didn't like the worship at church this morning. Or they'll say they didn't spend enough time in worship. What they're saying is, I didn't like their music style, or they didn't sing enough. Of course, that brings us back to the question, what is worship? Yesterday, we talked about Paul's statement in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, about what worship is. When the church gathered, though, in the book of Acts, so you read through the book of Acts, read it cover to cover, we see 4 things that were part of their gathering together. So when they came together to worship God, there were 4 things that took part there. The first is prayer. They came together to pray. And so we're not told how much time they prayed, but we know they came together to pray. We know that they came together for fellowship. Now again, what is fellowship? And we could spend, we will at some point talk about, what is fellowship? Because it is an important part of the Christian walk. Did it entail singing? And the third one is teaching. And then the 4th one is remembrance of the Lord's death. All of this is worship together. There is only one reference in the entire book of Acts, one time in the entire book of Acts, that singing is mentioned. And it's not in a church gathering. I don't know about you, but I find that kind of interesting. Acts chapter 16, verse 25, we read this. Now, about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns of praise to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. Again, as I mentioned, I find that interesting because for many, singing has become the measurement by which we determine if we have worshipped or not. And so, you go to church and there's not enough singing, or the singing wasn't great, and it's like, well, we didn't really worship God. My challenge to you is that rethink your thinking on what worship is. Now, throughout the New Testament letters, there are references to singing, and twice we're told to sing. But even there, when you read what the purpose of singing is, in those times when Paul says in Ephesians and in Colossians that we are to sing, what is the purpose of singing? It's to build each other up. It's to encourage each other on in the faith. It's to strengthen each other. Interestingly enough, most songs today, we sing as if it's just kind of me and God, and yet in New Testament time, the singing would have been about edification, teaching through song. So should we sing? Yes, obviously we should sing. Is singing worship? No. No, no, no. Singing is a part of worship, but it is not the sum total of worship. And I would go so far as to say that singing is a small part of worship. Now, before you say, well, this guy doesn't like to sing, so he's anti-singing. Now, I love to sing. When I was a kid, I joined the choir. My voice was so bad, they told me, just mouth the words. Don't make any sound. I didn't listen to them. I sang. And by the grace of God, I learned how to sing. And no, I'm not, a vocalist, and I'm not going to be on America's Idol or anything like that. And I don't sing solo, but I love to sing. But singing in and of itself is not worship. It's part of it. Here's the thing. Today, as you go about your day, consider worshiping God with your thoughts and your reflection. Worship Him by focusing upon His Word. And then may we recognize that the church's music program is not the worship program. It's part of it. But I would say a small part of it. On Sunday mornings when you're able to gather again, and that day will come, you're able to gather again with the people of God. Recognize that when you come together to pray, when you come together to have fellowship, to be taught the Word of God, and to remember that Christ went to the cross for you, all of that is worship. May the Lord bless you. Have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow.